Hi, guys. I'm Nina,
I'm Jamie.
I'm Ethan.
and we are Bloody Essentials. We just wanted to thank everyone who's already supported this podcast, whether it's just listening or subscribing, becoming a Patreon member. It really means a lot to us, and it helps us continue to do what we do. So, thank you. Also, quick shout out to Rick Paulton. We really appreciate your support as a Patreon member. And, just participating in our horror trivia events or, just commenting on our videos. We really appreciate all of your support. If you want to be mentioned in our episodes as well and receive fun little goodies from the Bloody Essentials team, join our Patreon. Okay, so it's no commitment whatsoever. It's just a month-to-month subscription. You get fun goodies from us. You get to be part of our monthly movie parties. You get first dibs on horror trivia events that we have. We just did one earlier this month, and it's a really, really good time. It's very easy. It's easier to connect with us one-on-one if you want to do that as well. Some upcoming appearances we have are at Sound Growler in Tinley Park. We have horror trivia in person this time, October 24th. That starts at 7:30 p.m. And also, we'll be at Days of the Dead in Chicago, November 22nd through the 24th. And all three of us are going to be here for that.
Yay!
Yay. Ethan, do you want to just quickly talk about the Horror House Shop and how people can support them?
Absolutely. Okay, the Whorehouse Shop, our friends Vinny and Moses, as you know, they have a brick and mortar store. They've been having some issues with the plumbing in the building and they've had some catastrophes there. So they are closing on the 20th of October and they are looking for a new building um, to open up for in 2025. So we have a GoFundMe that we're going to put up on our page if you want to help them with any of the costs. I know that they lost a lot of their merchandise, a lot of their product. Apparently, they're not getting any help from the landlords. So we as a horror community would like to come together and help them as much as we can. So
Yes.
the GoFundMe link will be in our description.
All right, guys. Tonight we have a special guest with us. All of our guests are special, but this guest we actually met at a convention, and she cosplayed as the main character in our movie tonight. So we're going to have Jess Conway on with us this evening. I just
Hi.
realized it's Jess
Hi.
Jameson, right?
Oh, either's fine. Either's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
It's my Conway is my middle name, but
Okay.
when you said special guest, I thought you were referring to the cat behind you, who I was just absolutely enchanted by. I was
No,
like,
she's-
I'm already getting upstaged.
She's an honorary co-host.
Yeah, she jumps in whenever she wants.
A little bit.
She's
Good to
sassy
hear
like that.
No,
Yeah.
no.
I'm sure she'll
Thank
be
you
back.
guys
Yes.
so much for having me on. It's such an honor. This is my first podcast appearance, my first horror anything really in any official capacity. So I am thrilled that you had me on. It was so nice meeting you guys at the convention. I was like kind of keeping a tally of how many people actually recognized my costume as Sandy from Last Night in Soho. And you guys were the deciding factor in tipping over how many people referred to me as like, oh, Last Night in Soho, or oh, you're a fembot. So thank you for very tipping it back over into what it actually was, which was Last Night in Soho instead of Austin Powers. So
yeah, I understand the
Love that.
confusion, but I immediately I
especially
saw
with
you.
with the
Yeah.
wig, especially.
Yes.
So perfect.
The big
Yes.
beehive.
For
So
sure.
perfect.
Yeah, I remember seeing the hair and the pink, and I was like, oh, is that Sandy?
It's one of the most recognizable looks in all of horror. Like, I really genuinely think like her costume should be up there with like Freddy Krueger's sweater and the Jigsaw pig mask and everything. I think it's just such an iconic look, such a beautiful look, and it really just defines the character. It's one of the things that I love so much about this movie. It's the costume design.
Oh, the costume design is amazing. Can I ask how long you've been cosplaying? How long have you been cosplaying her?
So this will actually kind of tie into something that I was planning on getting to later, which is when I first saw the movie. So I first started unofficially cosplay. I mean, I've been, dressing up and sewing my own costumes for Halloween and stuff like that for as long as I can remember. I think I was about like 7 or 8, maybe 9, when with my dad's help, I sewed a Princess Leia costume from a bed sheet, and I was her Halloween. But yeah, I've been cosplaying. I wouldn't even call myself a cosplayer. I love vintage fashion. And I follow old patterns and everything. And when I saw the trailer for Last Night in Soho, I was just instantly obsessed because like I say often that this movie was made in a lab for me because it has Anya Taylor-Joy. It's directed by Edgar Wright. It's set in the 60s. It's a horror movie. It's just like, like they had my number from the very start. So I first saw the trailer and I instantly knew, like, I lived in Connecticut with my parents at the time, and I knew, like, I am going to make an event out of this. I am going to take the train into New York and see it in the biggest theater possible. And I sewed a dress based entirely off of the trailer, which I didn't look up any spoilers about the movie. I wanted to go in blind. So I sewed a dress based on the trailer.
Oh my god!
So it's very much, it's like a tent dress, very much like the peach one. And I knew that there was
gorgeous.
Thank you so much. I knew that because of just from seeing the trailer, I knew that there was going to be a lot of interplay between like the high life and the glamorous and kind of the darker underbelly. So I kind of tried to capture that in this with like the interplay of the black and white, and she got her throat slit in the trailer, so I made a little blood droplet necklace. But
gorgeous.
So like from square one, from like minute one, I was obsessed with this movie, obsessed with the fashion in this movie. So I knew that, when I was going to come to my first like actual horror convention, I knew like, okay, I am going to, if I have, the space in my suitcase to fit one cosplay, it's either going to be Tiffany from Bride of Chucky, and I don't want to bring a wedding dress, so it's going to be Sandy.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, much more comfortable. No, I love it.
Love that.
Love that
so obviously you're a little obsessed with this movie, but do you have any other obsessions? How did you get into horror?
So I first got into horror when I was in high school. When I was about 16 or 17, I started getting like study halls like structured into my schedule. And I was not a kid who did homework. I wasn't a kid who did homework at school. I was like, I'll wait till home because that's where the homework is. So study hall for me was sit in the library with my laptop and just mainline horror movies.
Yes.
And I started with what I viewed as like the worst of the worst. So I started with, like Human Centipede and Hostel, and I saw that crazy.
Hard.
Yeah, you started hard, girl.
No, exactly.
I love it.
Oh, and you jumped right in.
I wanted to deter people from looking over my shoulder in the library, so I was like, all right, I'm really going to scare them.
Well, Human Centipede will do
it. Yeah, exactly. But,
oh my God.
I fell in love. I mean, my first big love was, I have the collection here, The Final Destination. It was I loved it. I watched all the movies. And Saw, obviously, I have a big Saw 5 blood drive poster that's staring at you behind me. I adore Saw, one of my favorite movies of all time, right up there with Last Night in Soho. And after high school, I kind of, fell a little bit off of horror. I got kind of sick of all like the sequels, ironically enough. And then I picked it back up when I moved out here to Rhode Island. because I was kind of doing research because I love research. I adore doing research for fun because I'm a weirdo like that. But I was looking into H.P. Lovecraft, and I was like, oh, are there like any like good adaptations of his work? And the answer to that was no, but there is Reanimator. Which I adore Reanimator. Yeah. I adore Bride of Reanimator. Yes. It's of the three, the second one is definitely my favorite. But that kind of reawakened that like deep-seated love of horror for me, and ever since then, it's just been I've always been obsessed with kind of like the darker elements, and it's become a passion for me again that I'm just so thankful to have in my life.
Aww, love that. We get the feeling.
Yeah, we understand that.
Yes, for sure. All right, let's go ahead and jump on into plot points. All right.
Okay.
All right. So right away, there's no doubt about what kind of movie we have here. Okay. We've got Ellie. She's dancing in her beautiful newspaper gown. We've got the 60s music overlay, and her room is just, it's like you stepped into, a previous time. It's just covered 60s movies, posters, album covers. She likes to design 60s style clothes. This is our main character, Ellie.
And can I just say that newspaper dress is such a moment, like such a cool fashion moment. Like, what a cool way to kick off a movie. And she's just like dancing in her house, having her like fashion moment. And I'm living for it. Like, I don't know. I wish she was me. Like, I want to be her in that moment so bad.
And I actually, I rewatched the movie yesterday morning, just kind of, to prepare talking about it again. Even though I have every line memorized. And what struck me this time was how similar the silhouette of that dress is, of Ellie's dress in the like first moments of the movie, how similar the silhouette of that is to the, I believe it's pronounced Junon dress by Christian Dior. And it's just like that, like timeless, like iconic, late 50s, early 60s silhouette. And it just like immediately like stuck out to me. That was like, oh, they put like a lot of like care and attention into the costumes of this movie.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I definitely got Audrey Hepburn vibes.
Oh, yeah. And I know that Edgar Wright had the costume designer watch like a number of movies from the era that he was like, okay, check these out. This is kind of what I'm thinking. So, oh man, what a cool job. First of all, to be the fashion designer of this movie. Like, whoop. Anywho, I could go on about the fashion. Vintage 60s is like my favorite. So,
yeah, believe me too. You'll have to cut me off.
All right. So we find out that Ellie's mom passed away. We don't know quite yet the details, but she's living with her gran, and Ellie has just been accepted into a fashion school in London. Gran is obviously very worried about Ellie. She says if she gets overwhelmed, Gran will come get her. We kind of get the sense that Ellie has a gift. She sees her mom in the mirror for like an instant. And we get the vibe that she can see dead people or ghosts or whatever you want to call it, right? So Ellie arrives in London right away. Creepy taxi driver, just instantly mood killer, right?
She was right to follow her gut on that, though. Like, right to follow her instincts. For sure. Like,
yes,
yeah.
Hopefully we haven't had to encounter that too much in our lives, but I've definitely had a weird like Uber drive once or twice, in life. So it's like, if you have that vibe, like go ahead and like make that cab stop and say, sure. I could be your stalker or I'm going to stalk you. It's like, that's so scary.
Red flag.
Yeah. Big red flag.
Yeah. Thank you for telling me, but
yeah.
Red flag. Seriously, thanks for telling me now so I can get out.
Yeah.
And, he does wait for her outside of the convenience store that she goes into, but he eventually leaves. And after this, she kind of is just like this, like cold shoulder to all men for a while after this. So understandable. It also kind of foreshadows some stuff later on. Ellie moves into student housing. Her roommate, Jocasta, I can't say the word on air, but I did not like her.
No, we'll talk about it next Tuesday.
Yes. You knew. That's actually
Yeah.
what I had in my notes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Ellie and her roommate Jocasta are socializing with the other girls in the dorm, and it comes up that, oh, it's revealed that Ellie's mom passed, and Ellie tells them that her mom killed herself. And then they're like, oh, how, like, bummer, that kind of thing. It's very insincere. And she clearly doesn't want anything to do with these girls. She doesn't fit in. Like, they seem very privileged and from a different kind of background than Ellie.
They're mean girls.
Very
Definitely.
mean.
They're mean.
But despite this, they go out on the town, they go have a good time. Ellie kind of wants to see London anyways, so I think she is like, maybe things will change. They don't.
And I do love Jocasta's line right before they all like take shots and everything. And Jocasta says, "You've got to live in the now, girls," which is kind of, in a way, the thesis point of the film. That
Yes.
Ellie learns a bit later on. And
Yes.
For sure.
I love that, like right in the opening minutes.
Yes, yeah, she definitely has a hard time learning that lesson. Yeah. She kind of ditches the other students and she goes back to the dorm. But unfortunately, the dorm mates are, up late throwing a party, and Jocasta brings a boy back into their room, so Ellie isn't sleeping.
Poor
And
girl.
she ends up late for class. Yeah, that would suck.
Nightmare. The first day too.
Right?
No. And then these girls are being mean, and then you're just trying to sleep. I will say though, I think like is his name John, the boy
John,
who likes her?
yes.
John, she does get to have like some more interaction with John, and I'm like, him for the win. Like, he's so sweet because
Yeah.
some guy makes fun of her music she's listening to because she likes her vintage tunes, and John is like totally into it, and he's so sweet. Just had to say, I love him.
He is a
Oh my
sweetheart.
god. John deserves so much better than this. I mean, I'm not going to say that this movie, but Ellie kind of puts him through the ringer, and I'm sure, like, unintentionally so, but like,
Seriously,
like, their first.
We'll get to it. Yeah.
Yeah, their first meeting, like, is right after she was like creeped on by the taxi driver, and so like she was just very chilly to him, and he just like is like, okay, I'll back off, and just he's such a sweet guy. Michael Ajaho or Ajaho, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but he does a fantastic job in that role.
Oh, he's phenomenal. Yeah. And I don't think I've seen him in anything else. So I hope he gets more work.
I don't either.
He is such a sweetheart. I love what he does with the role.
I know, me too.
Sure.
I felt for him a couple points in this, but we'll get into it.
Yes. So Ellie's a little desperate. She's trying to get out of the dorms, and she sees an ad for a room that's available for rent. And I think the big selling point was women only. So Ellie goes to meet Miss Collins, the landlady. And I wrote down some of the rules that I thought were funny. She doesn't take smokers. There's no use of laundry after 8 p.m. There's no laundry at nighttime, no male visitors after 8 p.m. And the landline only makes emergency calls, which I thought was kind of strange, but I wasn't going to question because I've never been to London.
Yeah.
So, and again, some foreshadowing there. Ellie's room is above a French bistro, and at nighttime, the red and the blue lights are constantly flashing outside the window, which I would find so annoying.
Yes.
But I'm sure you get used to it after a while.
It's beautiful looking though. Like,
so beautiful. Yeah, exactly.
It is beautiful.
It's worth it for the lighting.
Yes. So I'm just going to jump into it. So Ellie falls asleep at her new place right away. She's enjoying it and wakes up to discover herself in 1960s London, what I'd call a dreamworld. And can I just say, like, she falls asleep to her record playing Cilla Black, You're My World. Oh my God. Okay. I love this song so freaking much. And
yes,
I have
beautiful.
As she goes into this nightclub, there's the red velvet stairs, the mirrors, and we see one of our other main characters, Sandy, in the mirror, and she's, you know, standing in like the same position where Ellie would be. And she's in the mirror. And then we have this incredible shot sequence. I don't know the technical terms for any of this, but it's like where we start with Sandy in the mirror, and then there's like a switch, and you don't even realize what's happening. And then all of a sudden you see Sandy outside of the mirror, kind of controlling things, and Ellie is just watching as like a voyeur in the mirrors and any reflections that there are. And
It's
as
so beautifully
Sandy,
done. It's so
it's
smooth.
so beautiful, so smooth, so elegant. How they managed to not get any cameras in these shots, and very smooth transition, very beautiful. And I love how as Sandy slowly walks into the nightclub, into like the heart of it, you stop hearing Cilla Black singing on the record and you see Cilla Black singing on stage the same song. Oh my God, you are in the 60s now.
Just chills every single time I watch it. Just
Every
chills.
single time.
That sequence in the nightclub. Oh my goodness.
Because again, the 60s is like one of my favorite eras. So like for me, yeah, it's everything's so dreamy. I'm like, can I just go to a place that looks like that now? Like, and the way that they
But be
did the
careful.
mirror, I know, right? I know there's a dark underside to this. But yeah, the way they did all the mirror work and the glass and everything, it was incredible. And a lot of that was done like in camera.
Yeah.
They did a lot of cinematography, or I'm sorry, choreography, and did a lot of the transitions on camera, which was really cool.
Yeah. It was stunning. Absolutely stunning. Like, Edgar Wright, the director, if you told me watching this sequence that he's the same guy that did Shaun of the Dead, I would not believe you.
If you told me he did Baby Driver, I'd be like, oh yeah, well that tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The choreography is just so similar.
Sandy seems to be like the embodiment of everything Ellie isn't and wants to be. She's vivacious, she's confident, she's bold, she doesn't take crap from the bartender. And we immediately find out that Sandy wants to be a headlining act, singing and dancing. The bartender points her over to Jack, who's at the end of the bar, played by Matt Smith, who I loved drooling over in this movie again. And it's mentioned that Jack manages a lot of girls, is all he says. So,
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
Sandy just assumes, oh, he's maybe a music manager, talent manager here at the club. Who knows?
Yeah. And she's a go-getter. She's like, hey, I got a name. I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna headline here, so that's the guy I'm gonna go talk to.
Yeah, absolutely. She got a name and a face. She's gonna make the most of this.
Yeah.
So they end up having this cute little dance routine.
The dance,
yes.
I
please.
am so obsessed with this sequence. It is just this is the moment where I realized, like, oh, not only do I love this movie, this is quickly becoming, like, it is, like, that scene cemented it as, like, top 5, like, maybe even top 3 movies for me, because it is just so smooth. It is so beautifully done. And you can tell, because, like, something that I love about Edgar Wright is that he is so, like, he is so dedicated to the principle of doing as many things in camera as possible. So even while watching it for the very first time, I was like, oh, there's probably like only like 2 or 3 shots of this that are CG, and it was probably to like remove like a boom mic or something that like dipped into frame, because just the scene of them like whirling around, and it becomes like a dance between the 3 of them, even though it's, you know, like nominally just between Sandy and Jack, but it is just so smoothly done, because like it at first, like, he's dancing with her and then he's dancing with Ellie, and it's so beautifully done. I adore that sequence so much. It's beautiful.
Same. I love dances in horror movies, and this movie did not let us down. We had a couple of them, but yeah, you're totally right. They used like CGI for just a couple little moments in that, and it was all just in camera, and it's amazing. Yeah.
The behind the scenes are so funny because you have Thomas and Mackenzie like literally like ducking down like behind Matt Smith and then just like popping back up, and it's so funny just the behind the scenes of that.
Oh, it works because he's very tall.
Yes.
Yes. No, I love it as well. I think this whole sequence was the reason why I fell in love with it for sure. You want so much to like Jack, but it's clear that like he is putting zero effort into this. Like he's so smooth and so like devil may care. Like he really doesn't have to try to be charming. He just is. Yeah, and that's like a key element to this character for sure.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got this creepy old guy that like was kind of coming on to Sandy at the beginning, and he gets upset that Sandy doesn't find him interesting or doesn't want to dance with him too, and ends up calling her a slut, and Jack gets very aggressive towards him and punches him. And it's kind of endearing the way he defends Sandy initially, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like
initially.
Who wouldn't like that? Yeah. Initially. Yeah. And then they, for some reason, I guess this sends like all the green lights towards Sandy, and she's like, all right, let's go make out in this telephone booth real quick. And
yes. She had no other choice. Had to do it. Come on, they just had this dance. Like
die for her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they hide in the telephone booth for a moment, and then you've got this little, again, the sequence where it's like he's kissing Sandy technically, but he's also kissing Ellie, right? So that's really cool. And then they run out of the club. Jack takes Sandy home, and I love this moment as well because you still have the 60s music playing. You get glimpses of 1960s London, and it's, again, so beautiful, so lit up, elegant. And colors everywhere. And I love how you continuously see Ellie's reflection in the windows of the car and like the everything. And, you know, Jack asks to see Sandy again, and she says yes. And in case
you know where to find me.
You know where to find me, yeah. And it's revealed that Sandy used to live in Ellie's room in the 60s.
Yep.
Yeah. So Ellie wakes up in the real world next day, and she's running a little late again. And, you know, right away, it's clear Ellie and Sandy have a very deep kinship. You know, they both have a desire to better themselves by coming to London and making them something of themselves. Right. So we see Ellie in class, and she's beginning to design Sandy's dress from the night before. Right. And we also get the reveal that Ellie has a little mark on her neck from when Jack was kissing her. So it's a fun little moment where Ellie's, you know, kind of has this keepsake of her night, but also it makes the audience wonder, if he can do that, what else are they able to do to you in the dream world, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
where you're like, oh, how does this all work exactly? What is that
Right.
going to mean later on?
Exactly. What are the rules?
Yeah.
Yes.
What are the repercussions?
Yes.
Exactly. All right. And we have our awesome classmate, John, who we all love. He bumps into Ellie after class. He mentions he really liked her design, and he even offers if, you know, sees if she wants to hang out and, you know, get to know each other better, which I thought was really sweet, considering he knows that the other girls don't like her.
He also, and I love this little touch. It's so sweet. Previously at the like the first night in at the student housing, when you know, like all the dorm mates were having the big party and everything, she had written her name on a can of Coke and put it in the fridge, and he comes up like the first time they like officially meet, he's like drinking from it. And the second time they meet after class, he like gives her like a can of Coke, like with sorry written on it. It's just like this like sweet little apology. And I was just like, okay, that's a good guy. Like my green flags are going up at that point. I'm like, okay, he's genuinely very, very sweet to her. Like, this is a safe person to be around.
For sure.
Probably. He's boyfriend material, okay? He's boyfriend
Yes.
material.
For sure. Yeah. Unfortunately, Ellie is still stuck in dreamland and she turns down John's offer.
Yes.
So,
I mean, who among us, when faced with Anya Taylor-Joy, who among us?
I know,
biased,
right?
yeah. Matt Smith is pretty charming too.
And the 60s, London in the 60s.
Yes.
Who doesn't want to go back to that too? So I get where she's
right.
coming from. It would be really, it'd be really hard to like not go back to it after what you just experienced.
To literally
Sure.
have your dreams come true, because she's already established as somebody who loves that decade to begin with. So like, me too, girl, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So we go back to the dream world, and Jack is taking Sandy out to the Rialto Theater for an audition. And Sandy sings Downtown in a cappella fashion. I didn't like this song until she sang it. I'm just saying. I never liked this song until she sang it. And now I sing it all the time.
She sings it beautifully. Oh my gosh.
It is so beautiful. I have the motion picture score, and I originally I wasn't going to get it because I thought, I mean, Stephen Price, who does the music, he also did the music for Baby Driver. I like his like score through the film is like, it's very cool. It's kind of like synthy and a little bit I don't know, like not quite of the 60s, which not put me off, but I wasn't like 100% sold on it. And then I found out that they also have Anya Taylor-Joy's version of Downtown. It's like, oh, okay, I'm getting this then.
Oh, that's amazing.
Instantly sold me on that, because I love her voice. I love her rendition of this. It's so beautiful.
For sure.
It is. The artwork on that album is amazing too. So of the era,
I've never
like
seen that artwork. Yeah.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
And it takes cues, if I can just be a little bit of a nerd here, it takes cues from something else that the film takes cues from, which is pulp novels from the 60s.
Oh, wow.
So the art style is very of that era, and I love how committed they are to that aesthetic.
Totally.
For sure.
Oh, love that.
Yeah. So we find out Sandy gets the gig, and Jack and Sandy celebrate. We're just gonna leave it at that.
Yes.
For our younger listeners. All right. And Ellie wakes up, and right away we are starting to see a very different Ellie than what we started out with, right? Ellie's definitely becoming more confident. She's getting her hair done to look just like Sandy. She's got the same haircut, same color. She's finding vintage clothes that resemble Sandy's that she was wearing. Like, she is clearly emulating Sandy. She just wants to be Sandy.
She was living my dream, by the way. I just have to say that shopping trip to the vintage store in London, I'm like, that's like literally like you pulled that out of my dream.
I know.
I'm like, I want a shopping day in London, vintage like London. Oh my god.
Maybe
I don't want to pay those prices. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the price tag. Oh
yeah, it's like $300 for 2 items. I'm like,
And she's like, seriously?
Yeah.
And me, as somebody who collects vintage clothes, I'm like, that's actually pretty cheap for something in that good condition.
Seriously.
Yeah, 300 pounds, not bad for a coat like that. Not bad at all.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised if that was the same coat. Like, it was Sandy's initially.
Yes. Yeah.
I would think so.
For sure.
Same area.
Oh yeah. Yeah. She Gran calls her, and Gran is very worried by all the changes. Like, it's a lot very fast, you know. She hasn't even been there like maybe a week or two. So because of her expensive shopping trip, Ellie has to get a job as a bartender. And which I love that they had that, you know, realistic factor in there. And right away she sees this old man kind of watching her, and she doesn't get good vibes. Again, not very trusting of men. Understandable. It's London. But he starts to follow her after she leaves, and they have this very cryptic exchange between them, you know. he's asking about her mother, and she mentions her mother's dead, and he's like, oh, most of them are, very cryptic.
Yeah. Where it's like,
Weird thing to say.
And Ellie almost gets hit by a taxi after this. Thankfully, she's fine. And I love how the old man just like standing there like, just like
yeah.
that kind of thing.
Very
so,
foreboding.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, that didn't just happen. It's fine. And she gets back to her flat, and Miss Collins like barely recognizes her, or she's just speechless. And we'll get into that later. But yeah, she's wearing Sandy's coat. She's got her hair done up like Sandy, and then we get our next dream sequence evening, and let's just say some of our illusions become shattered. So we find out that the Rialta is not quite what it appeared initially. Sandy is working as a chorus line dancer in a burlesque show, which is a nice way of saying it's a gentleman's club.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
this
very,
Sandy,
very skimpy outfit, the little marionette outfit.
Yeah.
I do love that Ellie kind of like is like, oh, I'm gonna watch her perform, and then very, very quickly decides, no, I'm just gonna kind of look away from that. Like, I don't need to see all that. That's too much of her that I want to see.
right away we see a very different side to Sandy, right? Like, she's diminished, she's tired, she doesn't seem as confident now. And her and Jack kind of have a brief exchange. They're sitting at a table, and Jack is kind of pawning Sandy off to other men, in a, kind of subtle-ish way, not really. But yeah, he's pawning her off to his friends and things like that. And what I love about this moment is Ellie acts as Sandy's strength when Sandy isn't able to.
Yes. Yeah.
And so when Jack tries to follow her and everything, she's like, no. She said no, which I love. But
And I love this switch of because the first time I saw it, because at this point they look so much alike because they have the same hair and everything. I didn't catch the switch between them because there's these quick flashes between Sandy wearing this like skimpy, still beautiful, but very skimpy red dress, and Ellie wearing the same thing. And I didn't catch it at first that it was changing between the two of them, again, because they look so similar, until it's Ellie who like screams she said no to Jack and defends her in that way when nobody else was there to defend her. So I just love that moment.
Oh, I do too.
And as they're walking, behind backstage, you see other girls pleasing the male patrons, and Ellie's illusions are like shattered immediately. Like, this is not the glamorous world that she had envisioned.
And I love how they filmed it too. It's like dizzying, and it's like this like very dizzying, uncomfortable, like
kaleidoscopic,
of this like underbelly. People are ODing, like it's not what she was bargaining for, not what she expected.
Yeah, very heavy stuff. Yeah. And we see Sandy asleep in bed at the end of a very long night, and then we see a man coming out of the bathroom. And this moment was done very, very well, where he says, I know you're not asleep, and then like it almost seems like Ellie woke up and she's kind of out of the dream world, and then she sees the man over her saying the same thing to her, and then she wakes up again for real. And we kind of get the beginning of, maybe this world is a little too dangerous and we shouldn't be messing with it, Yeah. John shows up at Ellie's work, and, he's offering to listen to her problems if she ever wants to talk, which I thought was really sweet of him.
Because John is awesome. Like,
John deserves so much better.
I know.
Ethan, from a guy's perspective, I know this isn't your kind of movie, but you've been so quiet. I'm sorry. From a guy's perspective, how do we feel about John and how Ellie's been treating him so far?
She's been a douchebag.
And
he's genuinely a nice guy.
Yes.
That's how you should treat a lady. You should genuinely be nice to her and genuinely be a kind person. I like him. I liked his character. I thought he was a very nice guy. She, on the other hand, was being a douche. So
She's going through a lot, to be fair.
and I get it. I understand that.
But
still, if I'm going to be nice to you, I don't care what you're going through. Don't be a douche. So
That's fair. That's
It
fair.
is, yeah, fair.
Yeah. So, Ellie is talking to her grand on the phone. She accidentally leaves her design on the bar. And it's revealed that Ellie didn't tell her grandma that she'd moved out of student housing. She has an extra job to help pay for expenses. Gran's very worried now, obviously, but she's telling her, you have nothing to prove to me by staying. And Ellie just makes an excuse, brushes her off, and gets off the phone. And then the old man is back, and he knows Ellie's name now. And he happened to pick up her design, and he gave it back to her. But creepy factor, right?
Yeah.
And Ellie's beginning to suspect that this old man is actually Jack.
Very good casting, by the way, with Terrence Stamp, who plays him,
Mhm.
because
Yes.
he just exudes so much menace. Even when we first see him as just just another patron at the bar, your eye is instantly drawn to him, and you can instantly be in Ellie's shoes and be like, oh, maybe another server can take care of him. And that menace only builds, and he did such a fantastic job here.
Oh yeah,
So
and they did a
so
great job.
effective.
Yeah, they did a great job finding somebody that looked similar to Matt Smith without being
Yeah.
a carbon copy too.
Exactly. Yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
I bought it.
I did.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, we'll get into it, but
Yeah.
I'm with her on this. We're on the same page right now.
I do want to ask you, Ethan, really quick.
yes.
Because this was a first time watch for you, and we're just
It
going to
was.
leave it at, did you think it was Jack, or did you think it was somebody else when you were watching this for the first time?
I assumed it was Jack.
Okay, so you fell for it too. Okay, I don't feel as bad then.
We all got
him. He does.
We all got. Yeah. All right. So Ellie's really dreading going back to her flat. She's determined not to go back to this dream world. And this sequence, it's incredible, but it's oh my God. So the record player just turns on by itself, and all of a sudden Jack comes out of nowhere, and he literally pulls Ellie into the dream world. It's you have no choice. You're going in. You wanted this. And that's literally what Jack says. He's you wanted this. Talking to Sandy, you wanted this. You wanted this attention. It may not be how you envisioned it, but you're getting it. So, and we kind of get this montage of Sandy being accosted by all these men, giving her drinks. I do love how she's being asked her name, and she keeps giving a different answer every single time. I thought that was really funny. And I think that's a realistic thing and reaction that happens. She knows they don't really care because they give the same response every time.
That's a lovely name.
Yep.
Every
lovely
single time,
name. Yeah. Oh my God. It's
Such
what
a
are you
great
supposed
sequence.
to say? Horrible name.
Yeah.
Hate your name. Yeah. Yeah. And as we see this montage progress, she's becoming more and more unraveled. She's drinking more, obviously less confident in herself. But we get one guy that's very different. He's encouraging her to be brave. Look at yourself in the mirror. If you're not able to look at yourself in the mirror, you're never going to be able to get out of this lifestyle, right? So that's a very interesting moment. And then we kind of forget about it because we're dumb.
I know. And my head, when I first watched it, I'm like, oh, I should make a mental note of this, right? That means something. And then I just forgot about it. I was distracted too because there's amazing dresses in every moment of that sequence.
Yes.
Just have to say it. Okay. There's dancing and there's a pink dress, and oh my, I want every single piece in that sequence.
The blue one with the bow on the front. That was my favorite in this scene.
I love
because
that
she's
one.
doing, the camera's spinning around Sandy as she's dancing. It's quick change after quick change after quick change. And it's just the costumes in this movie, again, just, oh my gosh, I
know.
Love all of them.
Girl, I'm so with you. I wanted every single dress in that moment.
Yeah,
Anyhow.
for sure. No, I think that this is very well done how they shoehorn this little sequence in, and you kind of are right along with Ellie, where it's like you remember this guy, but he's so forgettable. He kind of starts to blend in with the others.
Yeah.
I mean, I remembered him because he's played by Sam Claflin,
Yeah.
who I know from the Hunger Games, which me and my friends were obsessed with when we were in high school and middle school.
Yes.
So I was like, oh yeah, that's Finnick. Like, I'm definitely going to remember that guy, and then instantly forgot about him. So I'm right there with you guys.
Yes.
They did a great job of telling this story, because I think that, you know, Sandy would have forgotten about him too, like just as quickly.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
sees so
Just
many
another
men a
man,
night.
just
Like,
another in the long line.
exactly. And what's really great about this sequence is Ellie's in the mirror and she hears him telling her this, and you know, Sandy cannot look at herself in the mirror. She just can't do it. So Ellie literally breaks the glass behind her and just wraps her arms around her. And I
Grabs
thought,
her.
oh, it was such a sweet, endearing moment between them. Yeah. And then Ellie is seeing the ghosts of the men Sandy had been with in her room, and they're like coming towards her, and she steps out into the hallway to get away from them, and she looks away for a brief moment, and then she turns back into the room, and it's empty, right? The sun's up, so she thinks maybe we're done with this, you know, hopefully. So she thinks she's safe. She goes back to the room, and they're still there. So now I
jumped out of my seat the first time I saw it. It got me so badly, that scare. It's a well-executed scare.
It is a good scare.
Yes. So at this point, we're like, all right, so she's not even safe in the daytime anymore.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So John, again, such a sweet
Saint
guy.
John.
Yes.
I wish they'd given him a different name though, because in my notes I had to change Sandy's John's to
I know.
something else.
I had the word
That might have been
John's.
deliberate, honestly.
Yeah.
Probably, but I wish he would have been given a different name, because I was like, I don't like that
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
But he invites Ellie to a Halloween party, and I thought this was really cute that they both go as ghosts together. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that
Because
so
Ellie is
much.
like, oh, she's like, oh, he says like, oh, you're already wearing black, so you're already in costume. Let's just like put a little bit of paint on, and you know, they're very matchy, and it's very, very sweet. I love John in this. He's such a sweetheart.
I know.
Again, like, she doesn't deserve him.
No. Ethan's just like, I hate Ellie so much.
Little bit.
Oh. The rude girls from school came dressed up as the witches from the craft, which is fitting, very fitting.
Yep.
I hate that
I
movie.
love
so
that little
much.
touch. Oh no!
I love the craft. We've been over
I
this.
love the craft as well. Yes.
Sorry, Nia.
It's fine. I'm usually on the wrong end of things. It's okay. But we get the hints that Jocasta might have spiked Ellie's drink, right?
Yeah.
For sure. She's having way too good of a time.
You should always know what you're drinking.
Yes.
I don't know why she
Always
thought
buy
she'd
your
be
own
accepting a drink from Jocasta.
Especially, yeah, like if John had gotten her the drink, you know, I at this point in the movie, I would be like, yeah, I would trust that. But like, other than that, girl, go to the bar yourself. Like,
Yeah.
you are like 18 years old. You're in London for the first time. Never take anything that's handed to you, you know?
Never.
But,
Exactly.
But I digress. That's
Even
that's
if your
me being
son's
overly
godmother
cautious
hands it to
anyway.
you.
Yeah.
We'll explain that off air.
Oh gosh.
All right. So Ellie and John are dancing, you know, they're having a good time until Ellie begins to see Sandy and the ghosts of the men that, you know, frequented Sandy.
Nice way of putting that.
Well, they visited Sandy frequently, okay?
Yes.
I'll just say Sandy's visitors. Okay.
There you go.
Ellie runs outside. John follows her. You know, he tries to calm her down, reassure her, and then they have this really sweet moment where they kiss. And you know, he's like, "Do you want me to take you home?" She's like, "I don't want to go back." So they kind of make a night of it. You know, they stay out late in the city. They just run around laughing and having a good time, and then he eventually, of course, has to take her back home. And, she brings him upstairs, even though she's technically not supposed to have men after 8, right? No male visitors.
Right.
And they begin making out on her bed. And Ellie suddenly sees Sandy in the mirror, and then Jack is like over her, like on top of her. And Ellie is witnessing basically Jack attacking her with a knife. And we see Sandy getting blood all over her.
Yeah.
So we're assuming that Jack killed her. And Ellie just starts screaming
her head off. Like,
this is where I'm just like, John, why the heck are you still with this girl?
he
Like,
stays in that room for so much longer than I would have in his shoes. Because like the first time she like freaks out, I would have been like, okay, nope, not tonight.
It's like, not tonight, not ever. We're done.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
This is too much.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like, do I need to call 911 for you? I will do that, but then I really need to go.
I will do that from the other side of the room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't have even been there to call 911.
Yeah,
I know you wouldn't.
You were a douchebag too many times. Go to the Halloween party yourself.
Take care of it. Figure it out.
Handle it yourself.
Good luck.
But seriously, she flipped out, and it's like, this is not going to go well with your rules, with no guys after 8. It's like, come on, help him out here.
Like, I would have been out that door before Miss Collins and made it up the stairs, okay?
Seriously.
Like, that's all I'm saying.
I would have pushed her out of the way.
Yeah.
I would have knocked her down. Like, no, you start screaming while we're making it. No, we're done. Like, we can't.
Yeah.
But yeah, Miss Collins starts knocking on the door and he leaves. John makes a break for it. In the process, he breaks the mirror and he just rushes out of the building. He doesn't say anything. He just leaves. And then Miss Collins, she's like, "Are you okay? You're not hurt?" She's like, "I'm fine. He didn't hurt me." And then she's like, "We're going to talk about this in the morning."
Yeah, at that point I would have been like, okay, no, like clearly something's going on here. Like, like come with me to the police. But again, like in hindsight, it makes sense why she was like, all right, just take care of it yourself. It kind of ties back in, it does make sense. But the first time I watched it, I was like, if I was the landlady, I would be already on the phone with the authorities.
I know.
Yeah, for sure. Because it really did look like, if you go into that room and you don't know what's going on, it didn't look like it was a good time for anybody.
No.
So, I mean, you hear her screaming in the middle of the night randomly. It's like,
screaming
what
bloody
is
murder
happening?
Yeah.
So Ellie spends the night in her bathtub with a pair of scissors, understandably so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she's
our same.
Yeah, I would be afraid that he'd come back. So yeah, I totally understand. And Ellie and Miss Collins talk, and this is the first time we get Ellie talking to somebody else about Sandy, really. She asked her, has anybody else lived here? Did anybody die here? And she's like, Miss Collins is like, it's London. People have died on every street corner in this city. And I'm like, perfect answer. Yes, it's true.
Totally.
It's
these old cities, like, of course people have died here.
Yeah.
And Ellie continues to see the ghost of Jack haunting her, as she goes about her day. And he's just standing there talking to her occasionally and making, awful statements to her and everything. And Ellie is making adjustments to this design of she's made, and she's, it's on a model, and she's trying to like adjust the hem. And then all of a sudden she looks up and she sees Sandy covered in blood. And Sandy's just like, where to find me.
Instantly iconic shot, by the way. It was in all the trailers, and I worried that something had been spoiled for me in the trailers. But I love the shot of Anya Taylor just like drenched in blood. It's in this, it's in The Witch. Anytime that girl gets covered in blood, I'm just like, cinema, 5 stars immediately.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a good look for anybody, but especially for her.
Oh my God. She rocks it.
She does. Genuinely. Yeah.
Yeah.
She makes it work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Ellie goes for a run. John tries to talk to her. She's out of there. I don't know why John would be trying to talk to her. Like, I'm sorry, after the screaming, I'd be done.
Right?
Yeah.
This girl's crazy.
Genuinely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that the song choice here, Always Something There to Remind Me. As she's running, she sees the ghosts of all these people following her, and like it's a great, incredible song choice.
Yes.
Great scene.
And she ends up outside the police station, ironically, and she tries to tell them what happened. She's like, you need to investigate. This is clearly a cold case. Somebody was murdered in my building, and this is who did it. And it's like she has first names only. She doesn't have any last names. The descriptions, the physical descriptions are not going to matter here because they're either dead or very old by now. Like,
Right.
and the male cop's like, you're crazy. You're just insane.
Yep.
And then the woman's like, she feels somewhat sorry for her. And she's like, we can't do anything with what you've given us. We need more. So that brings Ellie to the school library where she begins looking up missing people from the 60s.
And I do love the
Yeah.
exchange that she has with the librarian, because she's trying to like get into it and like get access to it. She says like, "Oh, I'm a student. Like, don't worry." And he's like, "It says that you're a fashion student." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm doing photo shoots in famous murder locations." And he's just like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." Like, just instantly buys it. I thought that was just such a funny touch. And like at this point in the movie, like the atmosphere is pretty dark, and like that got a genuine laugh out of me. And it was just a very like a very good moment, I feel like.
Oh my God, it was.
Yeah. And Ellie's doing some research. John joins her, and this is when she's like, "This is what's been going on." And I love how he's just like, "Well, my aunt's into some weird shit too."
Yeah.
He just goes with it so like
I
so
know.
smoothly. Like he's got a hell of a crush on her to still be putting up with all this.
It's a little unconvincing, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's like for the sake of story, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ellie starts to see the ghosts again, and she freaks out and literally goes to stab one of them, and then John stops her just in time before she stabs Jocasta, who was actually there the whole time. And I wish he hadn't have stopped her, to be honest, but
Right.
I know, right?
She faces no repercussions, by the way, for this.
None.
Which stunned
Oh,
me.
no.
I thought that there was going to be like that it was going to come back, or that Jocasta would have gone to the police or something. Nothing happens.
She didn't even get expelled. She didn't get kicked out of class.
Exactly.
Nothing.
Yeah.
They're just like,
Not
hey,
even
it
a slap on the
happens.
wrist. Yeah, who
It's a
among us,
library. Come on. Crazy things happen in libraries, guys.
Yeah.
all the time.
She's quiet about it, so that's what matters.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. So Ellie runs out of the library. She tries to follow Sandy, and the men and Jack are chasing after them. And Ellie finally catches up with Sandy, only for Sandy to push her down. And Ellie just passes out. She wakes up back on the pavement in an alley. And then she sees the old man who's walking, to the bar because she's conveniently just right outside. She goes downstairs to the lower part of the bar, and he's playing a song that's called Eloise, which is Ellie's full name. Very creepy. She asks him about Sandy, and he just keeps saying Alex killed Sandy, and he refuses to admit that he did anything to Sandy. Ellie's like determined to get him to confess. She's got the recording thing on her phone, and they're just yelling at each other in the street, and then he gets hit by a car. It's like, oh shit. Whoops. Whoopsies. And then
I don't know if it was, but it would have been so funny if it was the same driver who almost hit her.
I know, right?
Just like,
that
oh
would have
shit,
been
again.
funny. And then the owner of the bar comes out, and she reveals his name is actually Lindsay. He was a police officer in the 60s that worked with Vice in the Red District. And we get the reveal. Yeah, we get the reveal. Ellie just realizes he's the one that tried to get Sandy to quit the lifestyle. So,
and he's dead now.
Again, the casting is just so genius because Terrence Stamp looks like both of the actors. Like he could very convincingly, very, very easily be either of them. And it's just
totally
because, and it's so brilliant because like Matt Smith and I'm just going to call him Finnick, Sam Claflin, like they don't look anything alike, but Terrence Stamp somehow looks like both of them. So it's just brilliant casting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And at this point, Ellie decides, she's just going to go home. Like, she just needs to go home. This is too much. Like, she's hit her breaking point. She basically killed somebody.
Yeah.
And, John is like, I'll just drive you home. Like, you clearly need to get the heck out of here and away from me so I don't end up like Lindsay. So he takes her to her flat so she can collect her things. And she's like, I'm going to go talk to Miss Collins, try to get my deposit back. If you don't see me in 10 minutes, come to check on me. Brilliant.
Very smart of her.
Brilliant decision, because it's like,
Right.
if
One of
if
her
it
only
wasn't for
smart
John,
decisions.
seriously, if it
Yeah.
wasn't for John, this chick would have died.
Oh my. Yes.
Yeah. So Miss Collins gives Ellie some tea. She reveals that she knows Ellie went to the police and that the female officer from earlier came by to do a welfare check on her. And we get this very slow reveal. Miss Collins is like, the young me died. And Ellie remembers looking through her mail because Miss Collins had a piece of her mail from earlier. And she remembers seeing the name Alexandra Collins on the letters. Alex killed Sandy. So Miss Collins, we get the reveal, Miss Collins is Sandy, and she actually was able to grow old. Something that not many people in her profession would have been able to do. So interesting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we obviously remember that Sandy used variations of Alexandra to her customers from the dream sequences earlier as well.
It's all starting to make sense here.
Yes. Yeah. All coming together.
Coming together. Yeah. And Miss Collins says, she forgot the faces of the customers in order to endure the ordeal she went through, which is why the ghosts have no details on their faces. She says Sandy died in that room 100 times. And it's revealed that Sandy is the one who actually killed Jack. And then you get like a little flash of that scene again from a different perspective. And yeah, so Jack is not alive. Jack is dead. Yeah. And I love these two lines that she says. She's like, they sent me to hell, so I sent them to theirs.
Yes.
So it's revealed Sandy killed some of her customers. And then she also said, I wasn't going to let the city break me.
Yeah.
That's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we get another reveal. It's like reveal after reveal after reveal.
Yes.
It's like one of those old mysteries, and I love it so much. It's revealed that the tea was laced with, sleeping medicine, and Miss Collins is going to make it appear that Ellie killed herself. Because Ellie has not been stable this entire freaking time. So
Yeah.
it's not going to be too much of a leap. Yeah. And right as we get that reveal, John starts knocking on the door. Miss Collins lets him in and says, Ellie's upstairs. And then she just stabs him.
Yeah.
And yeah, brutal.
Oh, poor John.
I know, John. Not John.
If John's not done with this chick yet, this would be it.
Yeah.
Well, that's
right.
That's what he gets for pursuing the crazy bitch. So you had way too many warnings, sir.
Yeah.
Way too many red flags.
He
You
did
chose
not
the
realize
thing.
he was in a horror movie in
I
time.
didn't realize.
Right?
No.
Yeah, he was like, oh, it's a rom-com. With
Yeah.
some light sci-fi elements.
Oh.
Thankfully, Ellie's able to summon up her final girl energy and lunge at Miss Collins, only to get knocked against the stairs. And, another one of my favorite sequences. All right, so we've got this sequence. All right, so Ellie's slowly backing up the stairs, and we get flashes of Sandy walking up the stairs after her, and her peach dress again, and
It's
she's
a blue
singing.
one this time. It's this gorgeous blue dress.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
That's
it's very
right.
similar to the one that Cilla Black was wearing at the
Yes.
very opening scene at the nightclub. I think.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, it is.
Gorgeous dress.
so pretty.
Yes. And she's
With
singing.
the fire all around.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Yes. And she's singing It's My World, another Cilla Black song. And, this is her world, right? And she's going up these stairs that resemble the nightclub. Mirrors are shattering everywhere. And then we also see that fire is breaking out in the apartment building from Miss Collins' rooms. And Ellie kicks Sandy, and she kicks her hard enough she falls down the stairs, and she's down for the count for a little bit, and then Ellie proceeds to go upstairs. I don't know why. This is
Sydney
where it
Prescott
starts
is
to
just
unravel for me a
shaking
little
her
bit.
head.
Okay. I don't know about you, Ethan, but this is where it started to unravel for me a little bit.
Yeah.
She goes up the stairs instead of down through the front door with John. Am I right?
Well, to be fair, the downstairs is like where the fire started. So
Yes.
I think she was just like, maybe she thought she could like bust through the window or something. I at this point, she is also like coping with the sleeping pills from the tea. So she's probably not quite in her right mind. So I'll forgive her for that. But still, like, girl, the door's right there.
I don't think she's been in her right mind the entire damn movie, but go ahead.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So she locks herself inside of her room, and she tries to go towards the landline on the nightstand, which obviously we know makes emergency calls because it's convenient. And then as she tries to make her way, the male ghosts are grabbing her, and they pull her onto the bed, which I thought was a bit much. And they're just holding her there. And then they kind of take the phone away from her, and they're just begging her basically to kill Sandy and save them. And Ellie's just like, no, screw you guys. Which I liked. And Sandy, she gets through the bedroom door only to see all of her ghosts, probably for the first time.
Yeah.
And we see the ghost of Jack, and, he again is like, you were the one who wanted this. And Sandy / Miss Collins, they just say, I didn't want any of this. They deserve this. I'm not going to prison. I've been in a prison all my life. And she cuts herself, and Ellie's like, no, you have to live, you need to fight this. And Sandy's just like, save yourself, there's no, I can't be saved, you can, kind of thing. And
save the boy as well. She has a change of heart about John as well, which I did like that touch.
I did like that too. Yeah, because Sandy doesn't trust men at all, obviously.
Yeah.
And the last image we get of Sandy, or Miss Collins, if you want to call it that, is her sitting on the bed in her old room as the fire kind of engulfs her. And then Ellie and John get pulled out by firefighters. The apartment building is gone. And then we flash forward to Ellie. She's having this incredible fashion show of all of her designs, because this is what mental illness gets you.
Yeah, she finishes the semester with no problem.
She finishes the semester flying colors.
To kill another student in the library,
Yes.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. Yeah, there were no red flags. Everything's fine. Yeah. It'll all figure itself out. And what's great is, we get to see the original dress that she had made, but she'd altered it to kind of fit more of what she wanted. And, more modern day, but still inspired by the 60s. There's no signs of replicating Sandy anymore. Ellie's returned to her brown hair and kind of has her hair in a new style that's all her own. The girls are being nice to her, which is a nice change. And Ellie briefly sees her mom in the mirror, looking all proud and stuff. John and Gran are praising her and, telling her what a great job she did. And Ellie looks around and she sees Sandy in the mirror smiling at her. She blows her a little kiss and winks at her as Ellie touches the mirror and credits roll.
Yay.
All right, Jamie, will you give us some fun facts?
I will. We went through some of these already, so let me just look at the ones we haven't done yet. This was Diana Rigg's last role. She played Mrs. Collins, so that was kind of cool. Okay, the scene where they're walking in SoHo, and they have young people, students walking about. That was done with a Steadicam on a bike taxi, so the extras were not aware so that's kind of fun. Took a lot of planning for them to make this work, to actually shoot it in London, which Edgar Wright really, really wanted. Lots of businesses were 24/7 where they were shooting, so it was a really, really tricky logistical kind of shoot. Nightmare. But he was so devoted to having it there on scene. Okay. the director of Ferosa Mad Max, where Anna was in,
George Miller, my favorite.
Yes, yes.
My other favorite.
Yes, and he was so impressed by her performance in this movie that it kind of sold him on her. And he's like, I have to meet her. And that was basically what made him interested in having her for the role. And she was great in that role too.
Yes.
Love that movie. Adore that movie.
It's so cool. Love that one too.
Oh.
Apparently Stephen King got to watch an advanced screening of this, and Mr. King tweeted that he hardly ever rewatches movies because there's so much good other new stuff coming out, but he said this one was really special, so he did have to rewatch it. And that's a pretty amazing little compliment from Mr. King. Okay, this movie was going to have several different titles. It was going to be called Red Light Area. Or it was going to be called The Night Has a Thousand Eyes, but they ultimately went with the name or a song. A song is what they used. And apparently I read that kind of came from a conversation he was having with Quentin Tarantino.
Yes,
Quentin Tarantino,
I read that as well.
Okay, yeah, Quentin Tarantino mentioned the song, and he was like, "Oh, okay." They were talking about Death Proof, I think. And
yes, love that movie.
Quentin Tarantino mentioned the song, and it's like, okay, there we go. That's the title. He was a bit inspired by Don't Look Now and Repulsion.
See that for sure.
Yeah, the Vesper that she orders is a James Bond reference, and Edgar Wright really has said he would love to do a James Bond movie. So there's a couple little James Bond things in there, actually. I know, right? I think
the car Matt Smith drives.
Yeah. There's a couple little references. So he really loves
Thunderball
James Bond.
On the marquee.
Yes.
When she first wakes up in 60s London.
Totally. Eloise is based on his mom a little bit, on Edgar Wright's mom. He based some of her characteristics on his mom, which I thought was really cute. His parents also kind of factored into the idea for the movie. He said he remembered them telling stories about growing up or experiencing swinging 60s London, and his mom didn't always have like fond experiences with it. So that's kind of where he got a little bit of the idea for it. And he also said he used to disappear into his parents' records, like disappear into the era of his parents' record. He would listen to the 60s and just get taken away like our main character. And then Matt Smith had to learn how to dance for this. He said he wasn't very good at it.
Job.
He did great, but he said that I was reading that he was saying it took him a little longer than some of the other folks to kind of get the steps down and stuff. But I thought that was really sweet and adorable. And that's my
if you know Matt Smith, he's very, very clumsy and tends to trip over his own feet quite a lot. So it's very, I would love to see some behind the scenes of him trying to learn how to dance and make it look effortless, like he didn't even care.
I know. Yeah.
All right, Jess, will you give us your rating for this movie? We give it a 1 out of 10.
So from the moment I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, okay, this is instantly going to be a 10. And as I was watching it, like for the first time, I am the first most ardent defender of this movie. I adore this movie. I will say the final act leaves me a little cold every single time. It just the confluence of like all the plot points, like it's very, over the top. It's very campy. It's very pulp. But it is a little, like it's the contrivances stack up a bit too much at odds with it until I kind of saw it more through the lens of the style of film that was being made at the time. Like, because I read, I actually wrote a paper for one of my film classes about this movie when I first saw it, and my professor and I had a long conversation afterwards because he saw it the same night as I did, which was like very, very fun to learn. Learn that we were not at the same theater but just at the same time. And he said that he thought that the ending, and I thought this was so perceptive of him and really like kind of changed my perspective on the movie, that the ending really kind of leaned into the like hagsploitation or psycho-bitty films from the 1960s, and something just clicked in my head like, oh, that's genius, because it's like this over the top, like all these like reveals crashing in, the like melodrama of it all just really kind of like, oh, all of that like camp and extra like extraneous stuff, like it's all so deliberate and it just coheres so beautifully with the rest of the movie. And it is so deliciously pulpy and it is beautiful, like top to bottom, one of the most visually gorgeous movies. Edgar Wright can do no wrong as a director from my point of view. The screenplay is just hokey enough to kind of get its claws into me. And again, just Anya Taylor-Joy, just, my God, I am exactly the same as Eloise. If I got one glimpse of this girl in that dress, like I would instantly let her ruin my life as well. So I'm right there with Ellie. I am right there with her. So this for me it's a flawed 10, but it is still a 10, just across the board.
Okay.
One of my favorite movies.
Okay. Jamie?
Okay. I really love this one too. I think it's absolutely stunning. Like visually, it is so stunning. I love the 60s. So this was like my dream wardrobe for a movie. If I could own one more movie wardrobe, it might be this one. Seriously, I've eyeballed dresses like that. Anyway, I will stop talking about the clothes because I could go on about that forever. I really liked the story. I thought it was a little different, and it did really do an effective job of leading me down the same direction the character. I did not get the red herring thing at all. Totally. Yeah, it got me. All that being said, and I love the dancing too. Dancing in horror movies is like a favorite thing for me. All that being said, for me, it's like an 8. So really high. Not my favorite movie, but man, I enjoyed this every single time that I see it. Like you, Nina, I kind of wanted to watch it again after I rewatched it this weekend because I was like, I mean, I could just have it on the background and see the pretty clothes and hear the pretty music and see all these great actors. But yeah, really love this movie. And if you listeners haven't checked it out yet, definitely recommend.
Yeah. I really like this movie as well. I think, it's breathtaking cinematography, obviously beautiful costumes, love the music. Under any other circumstances, I think the character of Ellie could have been a ginormous hindrance for me. I don't normally like characters like this. I think that the actress did a very beautiful job capturing Ellie and all of her insecurities and strengths. And Anna Taylor-Joy was hypnotic to watch. Overall, like I'm just gonna give it like a 7.5 for me. It's not a perfect movie. It's a fun ride. It's beautiful to watch. And you see something new every time you watch it. It like everybody stated before, it really falls apart for me in the final act. And that's where it tends to be like, all right, these contrivances are getting a little too, a bit too much. And it's kind of falls apart for me there. But it's pretty to look at. And I enjoy watching it every time, and I'm never mad at it. Like by the end of it, I'm just like, it's fun. All right, Mr. Ethan, your first time watch.
All right,
male perspective.
All right. Now, this is a male. The costumes were great. I mean, I obviously didn't like them as much as you did because I don't ever care if I get one of those dresses. So, I mean.
Well, now you know what to buy all of us for Christmas, though.
Right?
So
but it was visually great. I love 60s music, so that was great. I've been to London, so I love London, but normally I don't like movies that are set in London because we all know how I feel about the British accent in horror movies. Drives me insane. It does. Don't get me wrong. I've got British friends. I've been to London. Love British people. I'm just, when I watch a horror movie, I want to be scared and not have to be like, what the hell are they talking about? And they probably think the same thing about American movies, but whatever. So, and we do 1 through 10. Normally when I do it, I say 1 through 3 is horrible and I would not recommend it. 4 through 6.
Oh.
It's worth one watch.
Uh-oh.
And if you wanted to see it, cool. And then 7 through 10, I'm going to be like, oh my God, I recommend this. That's great. With all of that being said, I would say that it's a 4.5.
that's in your watch. That's
Yeah.
That's in That's in your
Yeah,
watch.
that's in my world.
category.
That's from a guy's perspective. That
Yeah.
I could see where a female would be like, "Oh, this is great," because I don't care about the dresses and the singing and the twirling and the love story. Okay, I want to see people get their head ripped off. I mean, it's just not my thing. Was it a bad movie? It wasn't bad. And if you like the little artsy fartsy more type, or if you're a woman, you might like it. I don't think guys would like it as much. I have seen it once. I didn't see it until we were going to do it. I seen it once, and I probably will never rewatch it. So
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. I will say, like, I clearly know the target audience because every guy I've talked to has just been like, it's all right. And then every girl you bring it up to, they're like, oh my God.
yeah,
So I am happy and also slightly embarrassed to be part of this target audience, but like I love it. And I fell for everything hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
Slightly in my own defense of giving it a 10, again, I am coming purely like as somebody who like is addicted to like 60s pulp novel, which
Oh yeah.
like
Totally.
I have such a high tolerance for just the cheesiest, the schlockiest, like the literary William Castles of the world, you know?
Oh yeah.
And so that is very much, I think, if you are going to like give this film a watch, you know, like for yourself or another watch or anything like that, like come at it from like the perspective of like, it's going to be over the top. It's going to be goofy. It's not going to make a lot of sense, but just, I don't know. I feel like you have to suspend your disbelief, but more importantly, kind of like suspend your expectations of like what makes sense and what is logical, and just kind of like get swept up in what the character is feeling. And for that, like then is when this movie works the best, is when I'm just so caught up in that, for me personally.
Yeah,
For
no,
sure.
it is a great movie. Yeah, for sure. It's beautifully done. And
oh, I'm sorry.
if you like the 60s
not
and you're
for
a film buff
everybody.
and you like the 60s music, you're going to like this movie. And if you're not, you're just not going to get it. And that's
Right.
okay. Not everything can be for everybody.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly. It would be a
This is true.
boring world if it did.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I
But
don't
that-
think that I shocked either of my co-hosts with a low rating today.
No.
They know
Me neither.
they know me well.
Yeah, I could see it on your face when we were
Yeah.
talking about it. It wasn't a surprise, but thank you
Yeah.
for being charitable, and thank you for watching it.
Of course.
That is Last Night in Soho. Thank you, Jess, so much for joining us. Just
Thank
remember,
you so much for having me. This has
Oh,
been
of
such a
course.
blast.
Yeah,
It's so much
You've been
fun.
very fun. You've been very fun.
Yes.
you.
We'll definitely have to have you back on.
Absolutely.
Please, to talk about Saw, that would be amazing. But
So
So that's a
fun.
movie that I will talk about. Love
Oh yeah.
Yes. That's more of Ethan's type for sure.
Yes.
okay.
All right, guys. Just remember, if you ever find yourself in a horror movie, don't have sex.
Don't do drugs.
And certainly don't die. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.